Welcome to Microscopic Marvels.
All right, let's dive right in with the big question. What exactly is nanomedicine? You hear this term thrown around a lot, but today we're going to break it down so it makes perfect sense. So at its core, nanomedicine is exactly what it sounds like. It's where we apply nanotechnology to the field of medicine. We're talking about working with materials at the nanoscale. That's between 1 and 100 nanometers. Now, to give you some perspective, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. So we're talking unbelievably tiny. And here's the kicker. At this scale, materials start to behave in totally new and powerful ways. That's the secret sauce we can use to diagnose, treat, and even prevent diseases. This brings us to one of the most fundamental problems in all of medicine. How do you attack a disease, let's say cancer, without causing a ton of collateral damage to healthy parts of the body? You know, traditional chemo can sometimes feel like trying to weed a garden with a flamethrower. Well, nanomedicine offers a much more precise solution: targeted delivery.
Okay, so to pull off this precision targeting, we need what I like to call a delivery fleet. I want you to think of nanoparticles as these microscopic vehicles, each one designed to carry a precious cargo, the drug, right to the enemy's doorstep.
Let's meet the workhorse of this fleet, the liposome. Take a look at the diagram here. You can see it has this outer shell, called a phospholipid bilayer, which is actually really similar to our own cell membranes. And then, on the inside, it has an aqueous or water-filled core. This dual structure is the key to why it's so incredibly useful. And here's where it gets really clever. That special structure lets it carry two different kinds of cargo at the same time. Drugs that love water, hydrophilic drugs, can be safely tucked away inside that watery core. Meanwhile, drugs that are fat-loving, or lipophilic, can be embedded right into the membrane itself. It's kind of like a delivery truck that can carry boxes inside and strap stuff to its roof. Now, for your exams, a classic high-yield example you absolutely have to know is liposomal doxorubicin, a chemotherapy drug that uses this exact system to target cancer cells. But hey, liposomes are just the beginning. Our nanoparticle toolkit is actually pretty diverse. As you can see, we've got polymeric nanoparticles, which are like tiny biodegradable sponges. We have metallic nanoparticles, often using gold or silver for things like imaging. There are dendrimers, which look like little branch trees, and even carbon nanotubes, which are these super strong, tiny cylinders. You don't need to be an expert on every single one, but being familiar with the different types is definitely important.
So, we have our delivery fleet ready to go. But how in the world do these tiny little vehicles know where to go? How do they navigate the incredibly complex highways of the human body to find their target? Well, it turns out there are two main strategies for targeting the enemy.
Those two strategies are passive targeting and active targeting. Let me give you an analogy. Passive targeting is like sending a flood of delivery trucks into a city with really bad roads. They'll just naturally get stuck in the areas with all the potholes, which in our case are the leaky blood vessels of a tumor. Active targeting, on the other hand, is way more specific. It's like giving each driver a unique address and a key. They use homing molecules like antibodies that are designed to unlock and bind directly to cancer cells.
Let's zoom in on passive targeting for a second, because it relies on a super important high-yield concept called the EPR effect. And the whole thing works because of a key vulnerability that tumors have. As you can see here, unlike healthy blood vessels, which are neat and tidy, tumor blood vessels are just a mess. They're irregular and they're full of little holes. They're leaky.
So how do we exploit that weakness? It's a three-step process. First, the nanoparticles are just circulating in the bloodstream. Second, and this is a key term, is extravasation. That just means when they reach the tumor, they slip out through those leaky gaps in the vessel walls. And finally, the third step, accumulation. Because tumors also have terrible plumbing, really poor lymphatic drainage, the nanoparticles get trapped inside. They can get in, but they can't easily get out. And that right there is the enhanced permeability and retention effect, or EPR effect.
Okay, so that's the theory. But let's get to the exciting part. Where does the magic really happen? Let's take a look at nanomedicine in action and see some of its real-world clinical applications.
It probably comes as no surprise that the biggest application right now is in cancer treatment. By using nanoparticles for targeted chemotherapy delivery, we can get a much higher concentration of the drug right where it needs to be, at the tumor site. And this means we reduce that flamethrower effect we talked about, which leads to fewer devastating side effects for the patient's healthy cells. It's a game changer.
Now, let's talk about a really cool advanced concept called theranostics. The name basically says it all. It's a combination of therapy and diagnostics. The whole idea is to use a single nanoparticle to do both jobs. For example, we can use gold nanoparticles. First, they can act as a contrast agent to help us get a crystal clear image of a tumor. That's the diagnostic part. Then, we can zap those same particles with a laser, making them heat up and destroy the very tumor they just helped us find. That's the therapy part. So cool, right?
And the applications go way beyond just cancer. Nanoparticles are becoming essential for gene delivery, acting like tiny envelopes to protect and deliver DNA and RNA. We see antimicrobial silver nanoparticles being used in advanced wound dressings. And maybe the most famous example of all, lipid nanoparticles were the unsung heroes of the COVID-19 vaccines, protecting that fragile mRNA on its journey into our cells. They can even be designed to cross the super tough blood-brain barrier, which could open up a whole new world of treatments for diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
So, you can see that nanomedicine holds just incredible promise. But like with any powerful technology, we have to be realistic and consider the challenges and the potential dangers. So let's look at the final verdict.
Okay, let's quickly run through the good stuff. The advantages. Number 1, targeted therapy. This leads directly to number 2, reduced side effects. We also get improved drug bioavailability, which means less of the drug is wasted. We can design systems for a slow, controlled release of medication, and of course there's amazing potential for much earlier diagnosis of diseases.
But it's not all sunshine and roses. On the other side of the coin, we have some major challenges. Right now, the cost to develop these things is astronomical. There are still some big questions about the long-term toxicity. What happens after these particles have been in the body for years? Producing them on a large scale is also a huge hurdle. And navigating the complex regulatory maze to get them approved is a massive bottleneck. Okay, and here is a big Viva alert. You will almost certainly be asked about nanotoxicology. So here's what you need to know. Nanoparticles can cause toxicity through 3 main pathways. First, they can generate reactive oxygen species, or ROS, which leads to oxidative stress. Second, they can trigger inflammation. And third, they can cause direct damage to our DNA.
So, which organs are most at risk here? Where did these particles tend to build up? The 3 key organs to remember are the liver, the lungs, and the brain. And to make it super easy for your exams, here's a simple mnemonic. Just remember LLB, liver, lungs, brain. Got it?
So despite all those challenges, the future of nanomedicine is just breathtaking. We're really standing on the edge of a new era. We're talking about personalized nanomedicine, treatments designed just for you, smart drug delivery systems that act like tiny doctors inside your body, and even the sci-fi sounding reality of nanorobots that could one day perform surgery at the cellular level.
If you like this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe.